The Los Angeles Clippers have long been a team teetering on the edge of greatness, but unable to cross into that elite tier of consistent success. Their history is defined more by what could have been than by what actually transpired. In the summer leading into the 2025 to 2026 NBA season, they finally decided to take a bold leap rather than another cautious step. While other teams hedged their bets or slightly improved their rosters with minor moves, the Clippers broke away from the pack and aggressively rebuilt nearly their entire rotation with veterans who bring skill, experience, and urgency. Their front office seems to have concluded that waiting for potential to manifest is no longer a viable plan. They decided it was time to compete, and that meant not only adding pieces, but completely transforming their identity as a basketball team. After a disappointing exit in the first round of last season's playoffs, despite securing 50 wins in the regular season, the Clippers were at a crossroads. Most franchises would have opted to retain their core and try again with the same players. The Clippers chose the opposite path. They took a risk by overhauling their roster and bringing in 4 significant veterans: Bradley Beal, Chris Paul, Brook Lopez, and John Collins. Each acquisition fills a need that had lingered for years. This wasn't about acquiring stars for the sake of headlines. It was about recognizing holes in their lineup and addressing them with capable players who understand the stakes. The move sent a clear message: the window is now, and there's no room for error. Bradley Beal stands out as perhaps the most pivotal piece in the revamped lineup. While Norman Powell had a career-best year and was widely appreciated for his consistent scoring, the Clippers felt he lacked the multidimensional offensive ability needed to elevate their system. Beal, despite his injury history and a somewhat confusing stint in Phoenix, remains a gifted scorer capable of creating his own shot, spacing the floor, and playing off the ball. His shooting percentages have remained elite even in difficult roles, and he now walks into a situation where his skills should fit perfectly alongside Harden and Kawhi. This isn't the Beal of old who needs to score 30 nightly. This is a new version, one that needs to enhance the gravity of others, thrive in key possessions, and fill the gaps that were previously evident in LA's offensive schemes. Chris Paul's return to Los Angeles is loaded with sentiment but grounded in purpose. While he may no longer be the MVP-level dynamo who orchestrated the Lob City era, his basketball IQ, floor management, and leadership are still invaluable. The Clippers don't need him to carry the offense. They need him to stabilize it. With Harden often the primary initiator, Paul can organize the second unit, provide calm, intense moments, and act as a coach on the floor. His shooting percentages last season, combined with a historically low turnover rate and respectable defensive stats for his age, prove that he still brings plenty to the table. He also offers continuity and maturity, 2 qualities that can't be overlooked when trying to guide a franchise to its first NBA Finals appearance. Then there's Brook Lopez, whose addition might be the most underappreciated on a national level. Lopez has redefined his career in the latter stages by becoming one of the NBA's most dependable rim protectors, while also offering real value as a stretch big. The Clippers have long struggled to find consistency at the backup center spot, cycling through names that didn't bring much excitement or stability. Lopez changes that dynamic completely. He allows them to anchor the defense when Zubac sits and provides the spacing needed to run multiple offensive sets without clogging the paint. His three-point shooting at nearly 36% on high volume over several seasons, combined with his interior defense, makes him an asset most contenders would envy. Having someone like Lopez off the bench is a luxury few teams can afford, and the Clippers now find themselves in that rare category. John Collins, meanwhile, adds a level of athleticism, rebounding, and inside scoring that had been missing in previous iterations of this team. With the Western Conference loaded with elite bigs and dynamic front courts, LA needed someone who could not only keep up physically, but also bring a different kind of energy. Collins does exactly that. He is young relative to the rest of the core, but experienced enough to contribute in high leverage situations. His ability to stretch the floor, clean the glass, and serve as a lob threat makes him an ideal fit next to Harden or Paul in pick and roll situations. And unlike other role players who bring only 1 or 2 skills to the table, Collins is multidimensional. He can score, defend, rebound, and even pass out of the short roll when necessary. The Clippers roster now features depth at every position. This isn't a top-heavy group relying on 2 or 3 players to carry the load. They've surrounded their stars with options that allow them to adapt to any style of play. Whether it's a grinded-out half-court battle or a track meet, the Clippers can pivot their rotations and maintain their identity. Harden remains an elite passer and shot creator, still able to bend defenses with his playmaking. Kawhi, when healthy, is arguably the most efficient two-way forward in the league. With Beal joining them, their perimeter rotation becomes one of the most dangerous in the conference. Meanwhile, the bench boasts veterans like Batum, Bogdanovic, and Paul, along with younger contributors such as Christie and Neuhauser. It's a blend of wisdom and upside that gives the coaching staff an enviable range of lineups to choose from. However, the single most critical factor for the Clippers isn't talent, it's health. Kawhi Leonard's availability has long been an issue, and while he enters the season healthy, there are no guarantees. When Kawhi plays, the Clippers look like a championship-level team. His presence elevates everything from defensive schemes to offensive spacing. The difference between having him on the floor and not is stark, and unfortunately, history suggests he may not be available for a full season. The same concern applies to Beal, who has played fewer than 55 games in each of the past 3 seasons. While Harden and Lopez have remained mostly durable, the overall age of this roster amplifies the risks. 8 players are 31 or older, which means the Clippers will have to navigate rest schedules, injury management, and minute allocations with precision. Despite those concerns, the Clippers are uniquely equipped to handle short-term absences. The addition of seasoned veterans means there's always someone who can step up when another player sits. If Kawhi misses time, Beal and Harden can shoulder the offensive load, with Bogdanovic and Jones Jr. adding support. If Harden is unavailable, Paul can run the offense, and Dunn provides defensive presence at guard. If Lopez is out, Zubac and Collins can handle the front court minutes. This redundancy, which often goes underappreciated, could be the difference between surviving the regular season grind and flaming out early. One of the trickiest elements of building a veteran-heavy team is defining roles. When multiple players come with resumes, accolades, and expectations, someone inevitably has to sacrifice. That could be playing time, touches, or even a starting spot. The Clippers coaching staff faces a monumental challenge in creating an environment where each player feels valued while understanding their place in the bigger picture. This is especially important in the case of Beal and Collins, who are transitioning from high-usage roles to more complementary ones. Getting everyone to buy in, accept less for the greater good, and do so consistently across an 82-game season is no small feat. Strong locker room leadership will be required, and that's where players like Chris Paul and Kawhi can set the tone by modeling professionalism and selflessness. Another critical aspect of the Clippers roster construction is adaptability. In previous seasons, LA often found itself unable to adjust when confronted with different types of opponents. This year's team has the tools to do just that. Against teams with elite guards, they can deploy defenders like Dunn and Paul. Against squads with dominant bigs, they can rotate between Zubac, Lopez, and Collins. In small ball lineups, Batum and Jones Jr. provide the agility and spacing necessary to match up. This type of strategic flexibility is essential in a Western Conference where every playoff matchup could present wildly different challenges. Whether it's facing OKC's dynamic pace, Denver's disciplined structure, or Houston's hybrid explosiveness, the Clippers now have counter moves. But adaptability only matters if the team has had enough time to build chemistry. For years, the Clippers have struggled to get their full roster on the court consistently. With so many new faces and moving parts, it's even more important that they develop cohesion early in the season. Shared minutes lead to better reads, more fluid offense, and seamless defensive rotations. It also builds trust, which will be critical in high-pressure playoff situations. The goal is not just to stay afloat during the regular season, but to peak at the right time. To do that, they'll need reps, something that can't be faked or replaced with talent alone. The Western Conference remains a minefield. Oklahoma City, fresh off a championship, remains the gold standard. Denver is still led by Nikola Jokic and has retooled to stay competitive. Houston has built an explosive, balanced roster capable of winning in multiple ways. The Clippers may not have the most raw star power compared to these teams, but they do have one of the most complete rosters. Depth, playoff experience, defensive versatility, and shooting. These are the ingredients needed to make a deep postseason run. If they stay healthy, they can realistically aim for a top 3 seed. That would give them home court advantage in the early rounds and perhaps an easier path to the conference finals. Despite the optimism, the possibility of another letdown looms. If injuries pile up again, or if the pieces don't fit together as planned, the Clippers could find themselves in the same frustrating position they've occupied for years. Just good enough to be dangerous, but never quite good enough to break through. That's the nature of their gamble. There is no middle ground this time. They have built a roster with intention and clarity, and now it must deliver. Anything less than a deep playoff run will be seen as a failure, and perhaps signal the end of this era of Clippers basketball. What sets this current iteration apart from previous ones is that the front office has finally built a team that makes sense. Every piece fits a need, and every move made this offseason was done with purpose. It's not about chasing headlines or stacking names. It's about functionality. From Lopez's paint presence to Beal's scoring versatility, from Collins' energy to Paul's organization, the Clippers addressed their deficiencies and gave themselves a real shot. The upcoming season will be a test of durability, buy-in, and resilience. And while those are similar intangible qualities, they often determine championships more than talent does. In a league dominated by youth movements and three-point barrages, the Clippers are betting on experience, intelligence, and physicality. It's a bold approach in an increasingly fast-paced, transition-heavy NBA, but it might just be the counterpunch needed to disrupt the status quo. If everything aligns, health, chemistry, and matchups, they could finally shed their underachiever label, and if it doesn't, this could be the last attempt with this core. Either way, this season will define their legacy, not just for the organization, but for the careers of Harden, Paul, Kawhi, and Beal. The stakes have never been higher, and the time is now.